Hola, Cindy Alvarez. ¿Cómo estás? Thank you.
Bien, thanks for having me.
Yes, no, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your wisdom because se necesita nuestra comunidad. So it's really, really beautiful to know that, you made this happen. So, I introduced you in the beginning of this episode, but I would love for you to share quién eres, like who are you?
Yeah.
Let's start off with that.
Well, I'm Cindy. I'm a first gen Latina. I work in higher education as a manager, and I used to always call myself a single mother, but now I have a fiance, so now I have a partner in mothering. But I'm a mom of a 7-year old and a career confidence coach that is really just dedicated to helping empower other Latinas to level up in their career.
Yeah, so needed. Yeah,
Super.
that is so good. Yes, awesome. Congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
New chapter in life.
Yes.
So tell us, like, how many kids do you have?
I only have one. So I have one son. I don't think I'm planning on having any more, just because I had a really bad like labor
Oh
and
my gosh.
there I have super like bad back problems and a lot of like body pain. So I don't know if I can handle dealing
Oh,
with another pregnancy. Um
pregnancy, yeah, it's tough
yeah,
sometimes.
it was tough.
Yeah, okay. Well, um, tell us, I know you're in school. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so well, first, I'm the youngest of four older sisters,
Okay.
and I am the one out of the four that actually went to higher education. So I was the one that got the bachelor's, and that's as far as I thought I wanted to go. Then eventually, in my career field, I learned that people were making a lot more money than me by just having a master's. So I went back and I got my master's. And
Nice.
then I realized that there weren't that many Latinas at the table when I got my master's and still was in administration. So I one day see myself being a VP of student services. I work within community colleges. So
Okay.
right now I'm doing my doctoral program in community college leadership.
Oh,
And yeah, I'm focusing on millennials as mid-level managers, and are we validating their voices as we build our leadership structures, which is really important to me. And that's what I work with coaching people, because a lot of times we have great values, we have great ideas, but how does that come across and how is that accepted by our peers? And as Latinas, we need to learn how to articulate ourselves
yeah.
and really stand up for what's right, because the values of our organizations and missions sometimes are a lot of times to help out people, but the reality is that there's political climates that don't allow that. So how do we navigate those? That's my biggest
Oh
focus.
my God. Yes, I totally get where you're coming from because it's like predominantly white.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, ¿dónde está la Latina? Like, where is the supervisor I can relate or that they can relate to us, right?
Yes. And especially working in predominantly white spaces, there's like a fine line of, being authentic of who you are, but then at the same time, not being placed into a box by these predominantly white leaders, and really being able to come across with tying it back to the values of the organization and not making it personal, because then that's when microaggressions come out and it becomes very nasty very quick.
Oh my God, yes, and it's so uncomfortable. And then we're already like, okay, I'm gonna check out. And then
Yeah.
we'll end up, if we don't speak up, we're in that
Hmm.
trade. So kind of going back just a little bit, like you mentioned, you're the only one from your family that went to school. And I am also in the same space. So I'm gonna ask you a question because I think many others can relate. Um, how was that at some point? Some people might say, since I'm the only one, it's so hard for the family to understand my career goals, and what are the pros and cons from that you've seen?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think for me, my family is very understanding about my organization and my focus. And I think it's probably because for my bachelor's, I moved away from home. So I very much took, like, I'm going to college and this is my journey.
Yeah.
But I think really what's the hardest is them understanding what I'm doing. But I've worked very well at explaining the entire picture so that they can know where I'm at. And I think really one of the biggest things is that you have to rely on your team. So either there's a misunderstanding or you bring them in. So even for me as this doctoral program, a lot of times I'm thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing. What it is a dissertation. Okay, it's 5 chapters and I'm trying to understand this. But I also don't just go home to my family and say, yes, I'm in school. I literally sit down with my dad and I will have conversations about like, this is what it's supposed to be, dad. There's 5 chapters and it's this. And then I am excited. I keep them in the loop. Luckily, my parents, they do like speak English very well. So they can be able to, I send them my chapters. I send them, to my parents' emails and say, this is what I'm working on. And, if they don't understand it, then I'm not doing a good job in my area. Right. So
Yeah.
I really try keeping them incorporated. And they push me along. But I think the other pressure, or I guess the con of it is they know I'm doing well. They know I'm smart.
Mhm.
I got this, you got this. But really, if I have any like sort of imposter syndrome, it's not relatable. They see me as this image, but and they hold me to this pedestal, but then sometimes I don't feel that same way within the education system of my doctoral program. So there's a very, I call as a hyper visible and hyper invisible at the same time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I like how you said, it's either they can try to understand where you're at, or you invite them in to be able to like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Because
Mhm.
me personally, I've had people like, okay, wait, what is it exactly that you do? And it's like, "Ugh, I'm a social worker, but I can do therapy. So, and then I have to explain. They're like, oh, okay. So it's sometimes it's hard, right? 'Cause confidentiality. It's not always like, let me share with you everything that I'm
Yeah.
talking about with my patients and stuff like that. But it happens. You're so right. Being able to invite them for them to understand, because I'm sure we have listeners that can say, man, that would be nice, for me to send something for them to read over. Well, I mean, we can translate it,
Yeah.
and then just send it over. Like there's so many ways for us to educate our family members to understand our journey, our careers, right?
Yeah.
So
And
that's
also our children, that's like the
yes.
biggest takeaway. Me and my son, like he's 7, but he's very, very much a part of my career, of my education, and I share my wins. Like right before this podcast, I finally have found an article that like validates what I've been saying. And that's huge when you've
Yes.
been finding something, you finally find it. And I go out to the hallway and I don't mind sharing it with my fiance, my son, and being like, I finally found an article, and we do a happy dance. And my son just knows like this is part of my journey. And I experience that with him. And I don't just keep it to myself. I share a lot and I try to break it down into an understandable version for
Yeah.
everybody. So it's not just mom being on the computer. It's I'm in a meeting for this, or I'm doing my doctoral program, and helping him understand all the little facets. So
Yeah.
he's a part of the wins and not just my time away. He understands the impacts.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, you're definitely right, because our kids can see us like studying, like, okay, I'm gonna be in his room, I'm gonna study like all day, and then it's like, oh, but like, what are you doing? Like, we need to
Yeah.
come out, we need to be able to have them understand, like, you know, a little bit more in the at
Mhm.
their age level important
Yeah.
manner, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like you said, you're a social worker. For me and my son, I work in education, but I help out with student behavioral and well-being concerns, and my son knows that, and we have conversations and about either me catching students cheating and talking about the importance of that, or me talking about a student that's really struggling, and you never know what your friends are struggling with, and this is someone that mom helped out today, and it kind of gives them a more cultural awareness of what's
Yeah,
going on,
yeah.
and can actually see and understand what you do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, and hopping over to what you were saying, right? You chose to go into this career to be able to help mujeres, right? To be able to empower. I mean, I'm sure men too, right? Or is it just
Yes,
mujeres?
I do actually. After this, I have I'm helping out with a male with the interview for a counseling position. But yeah, I
Yeah.
help out males and females, but primarily, there is a women Latina leadership gap, and that's my primary focus, but I help out both. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So, going into places that we work and we don't see a lot of Latinas representing like the management,
Yeah.
right? Why do you think that has happened?
Well, so a lot of times being at the table is really an identity change for a lot of individuals.
Mhm.
Sometimes as Latinas, we can have a seat at the table, but using our voice is a different set of skills, right? And I work with a lot of women that are new in these leadership roles, and we work with each other because they're struggling on understanding, like, wait, am I worth my pay? Or what
Yeah.
if they're going to find out something, or they keep calling me an expert and I don't feel like an expert. And I'm like, you are an expert, like, what is this definition of expert in our head? And a lot of the times we don't take the ownership of that leadership, right? And it comes with this limited mindset, like, either we're not good enough for this position, or we haven't been found out yet, or we were just lucky, right? And I think that plays into a lot of us being in these roles and not feeling fully empowered and fulfilled to actually act out in these roles. And then the opposite is, because we have this limited mindset as Latinas get older, they then have that limited mindset with competition. Like, I'm the only one supposed to be here, So it's that continual, like, when they find themselves comfortable, they still have that limited mindset. And now they're doing it to other people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. As you're saying that, it also takes me how like the poverty, right? The generational traumas, how that continues to be part of that,
oh,
right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
tienes que ser humilde.
Oh yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say that, like, even within our own cultures, it's like, oh, ya se creen, like,
Yes, se creen
oh,
bien
she makes this
chingona.
much money, like, yeah, like, oh, she's already, and it's like, when did I get separated? When did I change? My role doesn't change who I am, and that's when you have to be really more personable. And yeah, I think that's the hard part.
Yeah, yeah, when family sees that at some extent, but like,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
and I think it also because many of us, right, first gen saw our parents sometimes be like bien trabajadores, never missed, aunque estaban sick, they would still go, right, survival mode, right? So then we pick up certain tendencies in that manner. So they're like, no, 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 no digas nada porque te van a correr. No,
Yeah.
no, necesitas dinero para sobrevivir. So when it comes to empowering our voice,
Yeah.
and in the places that we work at, it it's like we have like their voice, and it's like, no, should I not? But then I can definitely share with you that I'm like, no, I worked so hard for my degree, and one of my professors made an impact in me, and she said, you guys have a degree, you guys are needed everywhere. If you don't like somewhere, just and it's not for you, vete, like just go somewhere else and find your niche. And it was so empowering. And I'm like, no, I worked so hard for this degree. So I think that's another thing, right, for a lot of our Latina and Chicana moms to be able to know, like, hey, you have a voice. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to have a degree always, but like your voice matters
Yeah.
everywhere. And
Yeah.
what would you add, like, or say about that?
I would say, yes, your voice does matter, and continually matters and continually grows. I think there's no limit and ceiling to our growth. I think sometimes we get past that, like, that first real career job that we have, and we're like, okay, we're great. And then we think we're very flexible in moving laterally, right? Okay, I have the options to move from this position to this position. But then we never have to address the growth mindset of actually moving up,
Mhm.
right? That same mindset
Yeah.
of Like, why would you leave this job? You already have 401k. You already have this. Like, you
Yes.
have it all. Like,
Yes.
just because I want more money, it's not the money, it's my worth. I'm being challenged. And a lot of the times we don't reach for that next thing because we already feel so grateful for what we have. And
Yeah.
that's a very limited mindset. I know a lot of times my mom, I actually recently moved out about 2.5 hours from my family. And at that time, I was recently divorced, and I knew, like, okay, in order to take care of my son, I can't afford to live where I was living.
Mhm.
I was in a good job. I loved my job, but I knew there was no more growth. But my mom was like, you're getting paid good though. Like, just stay there. You work in a school, you have benefits. That's what people do. You just stay in that career. And so I was like, no. So I started looking for places, and I found one like 2.5 hours away. I applied, and it made almost double of what I made.
Oh,
And
God.
like that whole challenging process of like, no, I can make it on my own. I can do this on my own. Like, yes, it's scary and it's going to be a big challenge for me, but at the same time, like I feel confident in my own skills, and it's worth the risk.
Yes, I love how you said that, because that confidence in your skills, your intelligence, right? Your wisdom that is centering you to be like, no, like I got this, lo voy a hacer porque lo voy a hacer,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I was like, well, how do other people do it? Like, someone has to do it when they don't have family. So just think about what it would happen. Like, so that means YMCA, that means this, whatever I need to do to make my schedule work, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
You
that's
mean
what I
like
gotta do.
childcare? Like childcare?
Yeah, childcare, all of that. Like, when you don't have any family near you, you have to have all of those backups in place. Like, when I first moved out here, I interviewed babysitters. I found two on backup. So just in case anything came up at work, like I
Yeah.
already had a person set.
Yeah.
Um, but I think one of the biggest challenges is when you are educated that you're going to take risks consistently, not just in your education, but in your career.
Mhm.
And as scary as was for you to attend college and other people in your family can't even imagine it, the same thing applies when your careers, but their fear can't impact your confidence because you're doing things and going down roads that they haven't traveled before. And sometimes you're the one holding the light, and you have to be brave with that.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, was beautiful.
It's a big
That,
responsibility, but
yeah.
yeah, we got to realize like we have it in us.
Yes, tener esa confianza, right? That it is
Yeah.
possible.
Mhm.
Just like many parents that immigrate to this country without money, without family, that ese miedo. Yes, that's a very powerful statement, even though it comes with a lot of baggage of stuff. But it's very powerful to know that it's like, wow, they did it. Like, why can't I? Right. And I know we hear this like all the time, and I know I hear so many other platforms talking about it, but I'm glad we're bringing it out, because it's like, yes, right, there's so many struggles that we grew up seeing as for gents, and we got this. There's a lot of resilience, within us. And when it comes to having, like you said, the word risk, right? How would you define that in like your world? You're like more in depth,
And
taking a risk.
yeah, so I talk about this a lot with my fiance because we have total different backgrounds, right? My parents are entrepreneurs and they took risk, and I saw the value of them taking risks in that struggle.
Yeah.
His mom, he's raised by a single mother. His mom's a migrant worker. We have very different backgrounds, right? And I'm trying to teach him risk. And so what I try to say is, in life, we have options, right? And we might have 2, 3 options. And a limited mindset would only look at those 3 options. But a growth mindset would say, instead of my options, what are my choices? What are my internal choices? And then you start creating your own options, your own risks. And the 3 things in front of you, those are your options. Everything else beyond that, it's within reach, but it's a risk because it's not guaranteed. right?
Yeah.
And that impinges a lot of people in their careers because I went fast in my career up because I was willing to do a part-time job here, an internship here, just to get the skills. When some people will just be like, well, I'm not finding a full-time job. And it's like, okay, why do you need a full-time job? Well, I really want benefits. And I'm like, girl, you got no kids. Why do you need benefits? Like, you're in your 20s. You act like we have this old school mentality, like we're supposed to find a job with benefits, 401k, like right off the bat. Like,
Yeah.
risk is making your own choices, taking options that are not available, but are within reach, but are not a for sure guaranteed golden road. It doesn't mean that you can't create it, but it's not like, oh, this is a simple step. It's not something that's stable, that has security, but it doesn't mean that it's not valuable.
Yeah. Like
That's
that
what I,
leap of faith,
yeah.
right? Taking that
Uh-huh.
leap of faith and knowing like, okay, well, okay, this is my plan. This is the outcome that I would like, but also being open-minded to know like, okay, no me va a ir así a la mejor exactamente como quiero, but when those barriers start to come up, then it's like, okay, I'll work at it as I go, right? Because there's never a right time for anything, right?
No,
And that's
no, there's never a right time. No.
yeah. And I think that sometimes happens in many that think like, oh no, I have to have this, and this first, like you said, right?
Mhm.
And no, it's opening our minds a little bit more, getting out
Yeah.
of the comfort zone, pues, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, what ages have you worked with exactly? You said.
Yeah, so it's interesting because my primary groups, I would say around 21 all the way to about 45.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I get those that are, barely coming out of their undergraduate, wanting to get into the career. Then I have those that are in their masters that maybe weren't working in the certain field. Now they want to go into where their master's is and they're having trouble
Okay.
like kind of compiling their experience and making it
Yeah.
relative to a role. Then I have the older people that are like, I'm sick of being in this toxic career. Like I
Yeah.
know this maybe wasn't the right choice. And I think a lot, and they're still first gens, but a lot of times as first gens, we again back to those options, right? And maybe we're only presented three options of college degrees by people we knew and we chose one and we hopped on it, and
Yeah.
then we heard of the career that we could choose and we hopped on it, and then but later on we change and our values change and what we want in life change, and that's okay. So I work with older people as well with helping them change their career and utilize their experiences to this new role because a lot of them are transferable,
Yeah.
but it's how you
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah, so I mean that's a big thing, right? Like to change. Like you're going like, oh, I know someone who's like, I want to be a teacher. She was one of my interns, and it was like later on she's like, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to be a lawyer. I'm like, oh, and she's young, and I'm like, oh my God, a lawyer? I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
And it we can change our minds. Jesus,
Yeah.
it's like we have one life.
Yeah.
One life, like we want to be able to enjoy it as much as we can and strategize it and like you said, many people would choose a career based on like just like the money
Oh
aspect.
yeah.
What do you think about that? Should people just I mean, I know we need money to survive, right? But um when people say I have a passion, I have this like my heart just is calling me for this, but at the same time it doesn't make that much money, and I'd rather do a career that makes money. What is your advice with that?
I would always say go towards your passion. I feel like any passion, especially now in this age, any passion can be profitable. Like whether it's making digital content, digital downloads, like
Mhm.
anything nowadays can be profitable. And there's so many opportunities as well. I understand financial stability is very important. So sometimes I work with clients where we can find like a part-time job remote where you can stay home and just kind of focus minimal time but start building out your business or building out your personal passions and have that increase so that that's your actual job. But I think your passion, there's so many. I think what we don't understand is there are so many different job titles out there. Like
Right?
You know, like your passion can be event planning. You know, like I'm working with a client right now and she's good at office administration, but she loves event planning, right? So she has her own wedding business and that's good, makes a little bit business on the side. But if that's what her passion is, she can work for a company that does that as well. And she takes all her experience and gets paid really high there and works only part-time there, you know? So
Yeah.
there's so many variety of jobs that you can find someone that is wanting your passions for their own company, or you can kind of start small with yours. Like there's options.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay to be multifaceted,
Yeah.
right? To have
Uh-huh.
that in our lives and to know like, okay, you just don't have to stick with one thing. You know, I had come across a video that was talking about how people are gifted, like one way of seeing things, like one gifted person, and then there's like a variety of you're multi-gifted individual, and they're both great and beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with either one of them,
Yeah.
right? Like you
Yeah.
said, and it's okay to work a full time and have that on the side to
Yeah.
start off, and you never know.
Yeah. I think the biggest, and this is what I teach my clients, is the biggest thing is you need to know your why. Everyone has a why in their life. And like me, I have a lot of different hats. And people say, like, how do you do it all? Well, I know my why. My general why is to help people gain access to resources for them to be fully empowered in who they are, right? Like
Mhm.
even if it's me talking to someone at a party, if I learn about them, I'm like, did you know about this? And oh my gosh, I'm going to send you this resource. Like, that's just who I am. So
Yeah.
I do that in my job. I do that with Career Confident Mujer. You know, I do that now with my dissertation. I'm thinking about how can people do this for millennials? Like, everything has that common thread so
Yeah.
that my brain isn't jumping around all the place. You know, and I think that's the biggest thing is knowing your why, because you want that threaded throughout everything, because you know, they can be different types of passions, different types of actions, but it's the same purpose. So, you know, like internally you're aligned,
Oh my
you
God,
know?
yes, definitely, definitely. Um, because I get to ask the same thing, like, why do you do so much? And I'm a therapist, I do social work, a dialysis clinic, I'm an advocate for people, kids with disabilities, and I'm a wellness coach. So I'm like, everything just linked, attached to just
Yeah.
like me and helping people,
Uh-huh.
so that is it's nice to know that we can do so many things, but como dices, esa línea, ¿no?
Yeah. And you probably feel so content and like fulfilled, like you're filling your cup over and over and over again, where yes, it's a lot of work, but it's like you are, because you are doing one thing consistently, various ways, you're getting your cup filled, as opposed to people that are doing like, oh, I do a little, like some people are like, I'm a notary here and I'm this there. And I'm like, whoa, you have so many different hats. How do you organize that? Like it's a
Yeah,
lot of different brain functions and processing. It's too much for someone to handle. So if
yeah.
someone knows their why, it really helps you build your confidence, your
Oh,
inner fulfillment, all of that.
most definitely, yes, because I feel like I can change gears, and it's
Yeah.
like something new, even
Yeah.
though it's like same thing, but for me, it's a change. I love change. It's really weird, but I just love change. My
Uh-huh.
husband's not the type, but it flows, and we just have to, like you said, find our like why.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, what are some three advice that you can share to the listeners about, the career, like your expertise, pues?
Yeah. So for Career Confident Mujer, I think, you know, especially for your podcast and for your listeners, I think some of my key takeaways is really like the impact of being a career confident mujer on my family. So the first thing is that your career confidence forms your children's idea of their fulfillment. You know, them seeing you fulfilled in your career allows them to know what that looks like, what that feels like, and it really forms their own ideas. So just be aware of that. And second is don't use mom guilt as an excuse to not get started. It's so easy to want to be there for your kids and to be there every step of the way and put yourself on the back burner. But they are additionally seeing you put yourself on the back burner, and they don't use that as an excuse, do part-time, hybrid, remote, whatever you can, just to kind of continue that. And the third is, do not be afraid to outsource for help. Your career confidence is going to demand extra things of you. So whether, I invest in a cleaning lady once a month, I do the YMCA, I try finding different areas to outsource for help in multiple facets of my life. You don't have to do it alone, so
Yeah, that's
those
so
are the
good.
takeaways.
Yeah, because some moms will think, well, everyone's busy doing their stuff, living their life, and they're too busy. And like, I always tell them, like, no, for those who generally want to be there and help you, te van a ayudar. Like, they're going to help you. The ones that don't, pues ni modo, whatever. But we have to figure out a way to be able to succeed, because success is different for everyone, right? And just finding a way to organize our life and in a realistic manner, right? Because
Yeah,
for everyone.
definitely.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Cindy, for your time. You're welcome to come back and cuando te gradúes.
I know I have a lot more to share, all my findings.
Yes. So where can people find you if they have any questions?
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Etsy, everything all under Career Confident Mujer. And that's also my website, careerconfidentmujer.com. So you can find me there, get connected, and see how I can help you with your career confidence.
Yes, beautiful. I love it. Confident.
Yeah. Well, thanks
Okay.
for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you so much. And stay tuned for more. Adios.
Okay, bye.